It's a great honor and a privilege to have Lionel Stein here in Joburg, in South Africa. And Lionel, we're going to be discussing from 94 onwards, the next chapter.
No, thank you, Liz. It's 94 onwards. It's, how can I put it? It sounds very, very glib and very easy, but it's. I'm going to probably divide this talk into maybe three. Because 94 onwards, there are three activities that I was involved in. One was obviously what I'm going to talk about this evening, and that is the Selwyn Seagull. Secondly, it was my involvement with the police and heading community policing in Johannesburg. And the third one obviously has been my involvement with the Glen Hazel Shul, the Shiva College Hebrew congregation. And each one of them is a story in its own. But I think tonight I'm going to focus on the Selwyn Seagull.
Wonderful.
As previously mentioned, and if you don't mind, I'm going to just give a little more details, stuff that I've repeated. I'll be repeating stuff that I've said before, but I think that people who look at this individually, aside from what is previously said, they should have a bit of background information. My involvement started way back. In fact, I'll go even earlier. It was when I came, 1974, when I came to Glen Hazel and joined the Glen Hazel Shul. What I found very inspiring and very interesting was the fact, and in fact it was even emotional, was the fact that the Glen Hazel Shul gave the honour of opening the Aron Kodesh every Shabbos to the residents of the Selwyn Seagull. Now, what led to that was, as I've also previously mentioned, was that Max Wallhouse, who was principal of the Shiva College School at the time, he used to go every Shabbos to the Selwyn Seagull to make Kiddush there on a Shabbos morning. So he approached Rabbi Tanzer one day and said, "Can I bring the Selwyn Seagull residents to Shul on Shabbos?" To which Rabbi Tanzer replied, "You can bring any Jew to Shul, you don't have to ask my permission." And that was the start of a very interesting and long-term program that continues to this day. So we're talking over 50 years that this has been going on. And as previously mentioned also, when they did come to the shul, obviously there were a few people who decided that they better look for another shul.
But I think that was in a real minority.
We're just talking about a few people.
Yeah, a few people, yeah.
But that was the thinking at the time. And so when I came in 74, they were already part and parcel of the Glen Hazel Shul. And just watching them get up every Shabbos morning and going to open the Aron Kodesh, to me it just showed that there's a real love for one's fellow man. That was really something very special. However, maybe like many other people, it was good to see it at a distance and not to be part and parcel of what was going on. So that when the late Jack Shapiro asked me to come and make Kiddush on a Friday night, it must have been 1975 or 76, I was very apprehensive, and I was really went into my shell, and I was hoping to forget about it. But as fortune had it, maybe in fact good fortune had it, he remembered and he reminded me, and he made sure that I came. I came on the condition that we would meet in the lobby, and we went into the dining room, and which had a stage, and got on the stage, and Jack called a few of the ladies up. They came and bench left, and then he called some of the men up and made Kiddush. When he was finishing saying Kiddush, he looked at me and he said, "You know, whenever I make Kiddush on a Friday night, I look around the room, I try and look in everybody's eyes, and I can see that they've all got the Schina of Shabbos in them." And it was at that point that I was looking at the two Nathanson brothers who were wheelbed cases. And in that very instant, all fears and prejudices that I had just disappeared.
It evaporated.
Completely. And I suddenly felt part and parcel of this family. And little was I to know that 40 plus years later, I would still be part and parcel of it, and that would have become a very important part of my life. And just to describe how important it is, if you consider that, I'll come, let me may as well mention it now, and then I'll explain the importance of it. Was in, by the time we got to 1979, I used to go at least once or twice a month to make Kiddush at the Southern Seagull on a Friday night. I got to know the people, and by getting to know them, I picked up a trend, in particular when Roland Harris made it very clear that they enjoyed coming to shul, but they found that there was something missing. And I was trying to find the solution to that problem, and I did find it, thanks to Alan and Linda Zilberg. They suggested, why don't we go to different homes after shul for a brocha on a Shabbos morning? And I was a little apprehensive, I didn't see it working, but you know, if you don't try something, you don't know if it's going to work or not. Anyhow, we went to Alan and Linda, and I must tell you, it was a great success. So much so that we then found 3 other families, as mentioned before. It was Bernie and the Lake, Linda Sher, Monty and Sheila, Linda Spohn, and Brian and Melanie Jude. And that was our cycle for the first couple of years. Couldn't get anyone else to join or anything. But you know, when you start something and you start developing it, people start hearing about it, you know, the next thing something starts catching on, and before we looked around, it had taken off. And the next thing that we knew was that we could go almost every Shabbos in a month, and we could have a brocha at a different home. So, so that was how we started, or how I really got my involvement. And when I consider it, that as fate would have it, that it is now 40, in fact it's 40 years. We started in 1979, which makes it now 2019, 40 years later, still doing it and taking on an average of going to 30 homes a year. Because subsequent to the brochas we went to, as mentioned before, also we went to different shuls, or we went to different Shabbatons, to different communities. But taking about an average of 30 a year means that I've been out with the residents 1,200 times over this period. And if I've missed in all that period, if I've missed 20, it's a lot, probably closer to 15 that I've missed in all that period.
And today, Lionel, are there many families that want to participate?
Oh yes, I've got, you know, I had my stroke March 2018, so sort of nothing happened for about 2 months. I came out of hospital and out of the rehab, and with my wheelchair and everything, I started, and almost between then and the first 2 weeks of December, we went out almost every Shabbos in that period. We didn't miss a Shabbos, just to give you an idea. And but what was interesting, you know, you say 1,200 times, surely you become demotivated, you lose interest, you just lose that impetus to carry on. And yet what I found is that each and every time, irrespective of the brocha, where we go, how we go, whatever happens there, each time I come out on a higher level and on a much higher, sort of feeling much higher than I had ever felt before. And that shows you that whatever you put in with these residents, you get back 1,000 times, if not more. And it's something that is really, it's given me, sort of generated hope, confidence in me, that something that people that you think, because they have a lot of challenges, mental and otherwise, that the people you can't sit and talk to and you can't reason with, and yet if you sit down with them many a time, you get the true facts of what's going on, either at the hostel, what's going on in their lives, and it's most, I find it very rewarding. And people that I don't mind sitting with, I can sit with them for hours at a time, and I always come out sort of feeling great. And it's something that I also learned that, you know, when you think that you've got one resident and you match him to a family, as has happened, you sort of think, well, it's a one-off, and yet relationships develop and close relationships develop, and it really becomes, it's heartwarming to sort of see how these things happen when you think that the people are always, unfortunately in years gone by, I'm going back now certainly to the 50s, I can assure you that there was no school in Johannesburg that would have accepted residents of the Selwyn Seagull coming there on a regular basis. That I will underwrite.
Lionel, can I just mention, we had a friend who used to come to us many times in Yeovil, originally from Durban, I don't want to mention names, and he told us the most heartbreaking story that only when he was much older, in his late teens, his parents told him that he had an elder brother who was Down syndrome, and they put him in a home in Joburg, and they didn't tell the other siblings that they had an elder brother. And when he eventually did meet his older brother, because of the separation all these years, he had no connection. And he was very upset with his parents for not having told him when they were much younger that he could have developed this connection with his brother. And I think what you mentioned about the Southern Seagull, where you are making them part of the community by bringing them to the homes. The children in these homes also interact with the residents of the Southern Seagull. So it has such a wide effect.
Yes, I'll tell you a story even more heart-wrenching than what you just mentioned as I go along. But it's so true. It's a pity that the person didn't that you knew from Durban, that he spend more time and create a relationship with his brother.
He tried, but he said
it also
all the
depends.
years, there were so many years, and he said he is trying, but it's very difficult, and he's.
It also depends on the brother, it depends on the actual mental
Absolutely.
capabilities and status.
Yeah, that's true.
There's nothing straightforward in these things. You can't say A is equal to B and B is equal to C. It doesn't work that way. But certainly, as I say, what I've found is that you can actually talk to people. You find out what they know, what they like, what their interests are, and you eventually develop an absolute wonderful rapport with them because there's always something that they can tell you, and you can carry on the conversation, and you find so much common ground that you can discuss and go through, and connections. I mean, there was one resident who came to tell me that he sees my father regularly, and I thought, no, there's something absolutely wrong here. How does he know my father? So I asked my father, sure as anything, yes. I used to meet through two different families. I used to meet, you mustn't just assume that because they're telling you something that you think is fiction, that in actual fact it's based on actual happenings. And this is what a lot of people don't realise also, that these residents are they're very connected, and they know what's going on, and they can at times they can sit down and tell you. I mean, there was one resident came from Zimbabwe, and he could tell you anything and everything about the goings on in Zimbabwe at the time. I'm going back now 10, 15 years ago, but he was spot on, and he was probably more accurate than 90% of the population.
Can I mention, on this Shabbat, we had somebody in Yeshiva College Shul, that somebody asked, we were all sitting around, does anybody know when Pesach is going to be this year? He said it's on a Friday, he gave the date. No one else knew, but he knew. He knew that it's going to be on a Friday, and I don't even remember the date. And he mentioned the date, the exact date when Pesach is going to be.
It's amazing, there's one resident, if he knows that your birthday is on a particular date, he'll remember that forever. And if I tell them, for example, they ask me, when's the next Shabbaton, and I give them the date, and normally I give them Shabbos as the date, but we always leave on the Friday, so it's always one day earlier, and they'll always correct me. And I don't know how they do it, because if I tell them that it's going to be in 4 weeks' time, it's only a few of them that this applies to, but they'll suddenly turn around and they'll give me the actual date on that Shabbos.
So we asked him, how do you know? And he said he was given a loach, a calendar, and he looked at the loach and he remembers. He could give me the calendar, and an hour later I would have forgotten.
So you just started, one small little example of what you can expect from these people, and it's, as I say, it's absolutely amazing. But coming back to where I was, I'll just mention the story, add on to what you just mentioned about the boy from Durban. There's a resident in the Southern Seagull, and this I didn't get from anybody within the Southern Seagull. This I got completely outside with friends or the family of this particular resident. He told me that when this resident was born, and he would tell the mother that the child was Down syndrome. They just told the mother that the child had died. And the child must have been 1 day old, virtually, or 2 days old, when it was taken to moved to the Selwyn Seagull. Anyhow, this girl grew up, and she must have been about 17, 18 at the time. And eventually they told the mother, who was now living in Israel, that she had the daughter hadn't died and that she was living at the Selwyn Seagull. So the mother's immediate reaction was, she's got to come and visit the child. Now I remember on quite a few occasions while she was here, and this was over quite a few weeks, every day she had contact with her daughter, and they really built up an unbelievable relationship. My mother went back to Israel, and as fate would have it, I think about 2 weeks later she died. Now, I can't begin to tell you the impact that had on the daughter. I mean, can you imagine, you're not aware that you had a mother, you suddenly discover that you've got the mother, you make contact, you develop a most unbelievable relationship, and then the mother dies. And this poor resident, to this day, it must be a good 15 years later, if not longer, and this resident still hasn't got over it properly. And yet you can also ask the question, life in an institution, is it better to have them at home or in an institution? And I would argue that it's better to have them in an institution. Yes, they should be at home as much as possible, but in an institution they're at one society, they're together, they're friends, they look after each other, they care for each other. There's absolute full protection. Yes, they do fight, they do get cross with each other, but that's the moment that's over, it's over. There's no riggles, no continually carrying on with it. So I myself am a strong believer that one should encourage institutional living. But in saying that, obviously as much time as they can go home, but it would also be nice.
But are there a lot of the residents that actually do go home and go to their own families?
Look, in Johannesburg there aren't many. I mean, in Israel it's the reverse.
Yeah, that's
in Beit Shapiro, they took a decision that there was going to be no sleeping at Beit Shapiro. Everything would be just daycare. And the problem is, you go home, and what you do at home, it's great. You've got your family there, you've got your siblings, your brothers, your parents, whoever else, they got their friends, but you're sort of out of it. You're not part of a clique. And I don't have to tell you, with young children, particularly, they can be very cruel, and they're not always going to be inclusive or anything like that. And therefore, I'm a great believer that there should be a happy mix between institution living and going home.
But there are some of the residents here that do go home.
Yeah, yes, no, there are residents who go home. And you also get a few day residents who only come in the morning and go home in the evening, don't sleep over.
Can you give just a background who Selwyn Siegel was?
Selwyn Siegel was he was a person who had many challenges, and it was his father, Leon Siegel, who decided that sort of a bit rusty on this right now, whether it was in his lifetime or after he passed away, he decided that there should be an institution to look after retarded or challenged people. And he went about and he set it up in his son's name. Unfortunately, in the end, there wasn't a good relationship between him and the committee running the Selwyn Siegel, but nevertheless, to this day it's perpetuated his son's memory, and it's, all I can say is that I don't think there could have been a better monument that he could have built than what he did in creating the Selwyn Siegel. Returning to my role, as I said, we started off with brochas in different homes. One of the first brochas that we had, the mother came to me after shul and said, "Right, we're ready to go." I said, "You know what, we're coming to you next week." And she said to me, "Well, I made such a mistake. I even especially told my children out that they wouldn't be at home when you came."
Wow.
So anyhow she said, "I'll go home, I'll freeze everything." Came the next week after shul, went up to her and I said, "Right, we're ready to go." And she claps her head, she said, "Oi, I clean forgot. Let me run home quickly and get stuff out of the deep freeze and get something organised." And we get to the house and she have a lovely time there. But what does she discover? Her children are there with a few friends. What are they doing? They're busy taking food around to the residents. They're busy playing soccer and cricket with them in the garden. And it was a real eye-opener to this mother. That shows you that perception is not everything. It's and the beauty is that with children they don't know discrimination. That's the beauty of children.
The innocence, they have
complete innocence. Yeah. So that just gives you an idea. Then obviously, we started going to different shuls. The first one we went to was Rabbi Karlebach in Lyndhurst. Then we went to the Sydenham shul, as I mentioned last time also. When we got there, they were expecting us about half an hour later. They were going to meet us outside. We got there much earlier than expected. We walked in and Rishi took it up, was davening at the time, and the service just stopped, came to an absolute dead stop. And everybody looked around, didn't know what to do, what to say or anything, until Harold Novik sort of just turned around to the chazan and everybody said, "Just carry on, no reason to stop." And we've had a wonderful relationship with the Sydenham shul. I mean, we've been going there every year ever since. And one thing I found with this program is that not to do it more than once a year, because then it loses its special tone. And that's what has made it special, is that there is that looking forward to it a year later. When you go there, people remember that they've been there, and they remember everything about the homes. They remember details, sometimes the minutest of details from 20 years before. They'll remember people that have been there who might have passed on, and people asking about them. It really becomes a real heimlich affair. And then, as the arrival of Rabbi Harris, I mentioned that story before as well, but I may as well mention it again. The Selwyn Siegel gave him a special tea for him at a tea garden at Kibbutz Labna on a Sunday afternoon. This was just a couple of months after he arrived. And I was sitting there, and we were all at different tables. And he was sitting there with a lot of the balabatim of the Jewish community. And I went up to him, introduced myself, and told him about my program, and invited him and his wife to join us one Shabbos to come to Glen Hazel and be with us. And he looked at me hard in the eyes and he said, but very firmly, no, I won't come. Well, the earth could have opened up underneath me. I mean, I didn't know what to say or what to do. And I just stood there paralyzed. It seemed like forever. It must have been about 20, 30 seconds. After he saw that I was getting over my shock, he said, we won't come to you until you come to us.
It's amazing.
And we made the trek to him. At that point they were living in St. John's Road in Parktown.
It's quite a far.
It was about an 8-kilometre walk. We walked there and we walked back. I took Anne Harris's logic to tell us next year rather come a bit later and go home by bus in after Shabbos. But so we made the walk there and back. I mean, as a few years after that, one Shabbos going up Louis Botha Avenue, the curve, Rabbi Goldpan and his wife saw us going and they wanted to know what it was all about. So when they heard about it, they said we must come to them. But it was interesting when we went to them, suddenly it was maybe just less than half the distance, or around about half the distance. We were so worried. I mean, we took what we called a roving ambulance with us that had walked her and everything else just in case people needed it. But we got there without needing any assistance or help on the way. And we learned that, if you want to do something, you can do it. And we went to there for many years. In fact, we started going there not only on Shabbos, but we used to go there on Cholamayat Sukkos as well. And it was really something that everybody looked forward to, and it was always special and it was always great. In fact, I can say without fear of contradiction that Mrs. Goldfine is certainly a ball of fire, and when she puts her mind to anything, it's unbelievable. She'll make sure that it happens, and she not only that, she does it with love and with chain and with real interest,
with full heart,
complete full heart, and that was the start of an unbelievable relationship with Rabbi Harris.
Could you tell our listeners, we did mention it before, but it's the most incredible story about going to Santon Shul for a sleepover.
Okay, part of what happened was that I got a call. It was in 1989. It's in the beginning of 1989. So that would have been 30 years ago. I got a call from Nathan Mashkovsky, who was then chairman of the Santon Shul. And he told me he'd heard about our program and would we come to Santon Shul. I said, Nathan, thank you very much, but it's just too far for us to walk. I must add subsequently to that, we have walked to Santon.
You walked on the Shabbos?
No, it wasn't. It was on a Sunday. We walked to Alpha Park. Used to be across the road from the Santon Shul, and Maccabi had a function on there, and we walked there. Right. We were met by Bruce Fordyce, and he led us in. It was even then we arrived early that day, much earlier than what they expected us. But anyhow, I said to Nathan, it's too far for us to walk. So anyhow, he showed me that he wanted us to sleep over. And after checking with him at least 4 times with whom, he told me it was going to be with members, because I, having had all this interaction with people and knowing their fears, I found it most surprising. But if Nathan assured me that it would happen, it would happen. Anyhow, the Thursday before, this was the last Shabbos in February 1989. And the Thursday before, we were due to go get a call early in the morning from Nathan to tell me it's off, that the hosts have got cold feet and are not prepared to host. So I just said to Nathan, I said, look Nathan, since Monday they've been packing their bags. There's no way that I can go and tell them that it's off. I said, even if we have to sleep on the floor of the shul, we'll do that. Well, Nathan being Nathan, a few hours later I get a call from him to tell me it was on. And the amazing thing that happened that Shabbos and that Shabbaton was that it was the hosts that got much more out of it than the residents, and the residents themselves had the most unbelievable time. This was a complete new experience. I mean, today, since then, we've been at least 100 Shabbatons, but that was, at that time, that was very extra special. So that was 1993, we were going to start 1994. That was 1989. That was the same year that the Chief Rabbi came to South Africa, Chief Rabbi Harris.
And you mentioned that there was one girl that the mother said, I think it was the first time that she had been
Yes, that's correct.
She slept in another bed.
That's correct. One mother wrote a letter to her hosts to thank them very much for what they did. And she said she just wanted them to know what it meant for her daughter, because this was only the third bed that her daughter had ever slept in her life. So the one was at home, one was in the Sowan Seagull, and then this was the third one. She knew of no other beds or rooms or anything. And she just wanted the hosts to know what it meant to her as a mother. And it was something that was, how can I describe it? I mean, it was, I actually had a copy of the letter, but when I moved and downsized, I had to get rid of all the extra papers and everything. So I don't have a copy of that letter anymore. But it was really a most moving letter. And I mean, over and above that, I mean, the Sandton community really became very close and attached to the residents. I mean, there was the other story as well with Sandton. This was a couple of years later, it must have been about 92, 93. I took with this one girl, late Tamar Dorf, and she passed away around the middle of 2018. In addition to her other handicaps, she was also spastic. Yet she was the most amazing person. She was also able, amongst other things, to paint. And how did she paint, being spastic? I used to put a contraption on her head that had a socket that was attached, the paintbrush was attached to it, and she was able, using that, to mix the paints and to paint.
Unbelievable.
And she always liked to boast that even Nelson Mandela bought one of her paintings.
Wow.
And what happened was, first time we took her, I mean, this was going to be an experiment, and I mean, they allocated the family hosts, and then when it came to her name, they called out Ivan Shapkats, and Ivan came to fetch her, and Ivan took her by the hand and helped her because she really battled with walking, and took her case. So while we were carrying on allocating people, I was watching through the corner of my eye. I see her getting into a Porsche.
Oh wow.
In fact, it was a red Porsche. And she's sitting in the front, and the car drives past us. She's got a smile from ear to ear. I said to myself, well, that's the last smile we're going to have this Shabbos.
Wow.
And yet the most unbelievable relationship developed between her and the Shapkats family. And it just goes to show you that it's you just can't predict what's going to happen. If you don't try something, if it doesn't work, so it doesn't work. But you never know, it just might work. And in this case, it worked. And I mean, she came with us to all the other Shabbatons that we've been to, and despite her condition, she's able to look after herself, make her own bed, tidy the room, tidy the bathroom. And as I always say, when I would tell the story at the luncheons that we would have, communal lunches, we always have when we have the Shabbatons, I would tell the parents, please to either take their children outside, because it might be harmful to them to hear this.
Wow.
But it shows you what can be done. And that was sort of led us up to about 1994. From 1994, I mean, the foundation had been set. In those days, I was still going to make Kiddush at the Sowan Seagull, going at least once or twice a month. And it was something I found very special. I really enjoyed it. It was part and parcel of my life. It didn't matter what happened that week, and I knew that it was my turn to go to my Kiddush. I really felt great. The moment I walked in there, I relaxed, and whatever happened during the week was history. This was the beginning of a new episode, and it was great. The welcome I would get there was something unbelievable. They were always only too happy to see me and to greet me and to welcome me, and it really made me feel wonderful. Subsequent to that was that the programs carried on with our brochas, our luncheons, going to different homes, going to different shuls in the area, and then obviously the Shabbatons, and then all the special occasions like going to Chief Rabbi Harris and to Rabbi Goldfein. These were things that just added value to the program. And in this time, what was interesting was that all the time we were getting new families that were joining the program. So it was impossible to always keep up with the older families. The pioneers we always kept up with, but we couldn't just keep up with everyone who had been involved because there just weren't enough Shabbosim in the year to do that. So what I found also was that other relationships started developing. People would invite residents to come and sleep over for Shabbos. They'd invite them out for lunch on a Sunday or during the week or for a meal at night. And these were things that would never have happened had there not been the initial contact hadn't been made. And it really augmented well for the future. And as we moved on, so I found that as we started going to new shuls, and that it didn't take long for new relationships to develop. The one that I must mention in particular is Rabbi Chazdan. We first started with Rabbi Chazdan at Torah Academy, and that was, we used to go there always Rosh Chodesh Elul, and the boys would come with, but we would go up there. He would even give an aliyah to one of the residents, and in fact one year we got there late, and they reread the Torah so that they could have, so that resident could have his aliyah, and such was it. But there were so many other small little stories that I can tell. Leon Kravitz. Now here was a person, I remember we went to, this was in the early 1990s, we were at Rabbi Harris, and in fact it was probably might have even been after 94, and Leon said to Rabbi Harris he wants to learn Hebrew. So during the following week, Rabbi Harris took him an audio cassette, and that is what sort of got him started on his road to reading Hebrew. Then Leon would go to certain families on the Shabbos. There was Lionel Horwitz, there was Evan Sklar, and they would also help him along and check his Hebrew and help him perfect it. Just fast forwarded to last year, 2018. What happened? Leon actually did the Haftarah at the Victory Park.
He did the
He did the Haftarah.
That's amazing.
So he can read Hebrew. Might not be as fluent as any of us can read it, but he can read it.
And he did the Haftarah.
And he knows the difference between the Ashkenaz and Sephardi pronunciations. And it just goes to show, what can be done if there's a will. If there's a will, there's a way, they say.
Absolutely.
The other residents in their own way, all have sort of sparkled. You take, there was the late Manny Grass. Here was a resident. If you looked at Manny, you'd think that you couldn't sit down, you couldn't talk to him, he couldn't talk to you. You'd almost think that he was a dumb mute. And yet, Manny had a repertoire of songs in his mind. He could sing for 2-3 hours without repeating a song.
Wow.
And what was also interesting that I found out about Manny was that this is what happens when you actually sit and talk to people, is that he was born in Cape Town, and all his years, until he moved up to Johannesburg when he was in his 20s, he was staying afterwards, I think, at Highlands House and he was, amongst other things, he played for the village's third rugby team.
Really, that's amazing.
And I remember once at Victory Park there was a table tennis table out there, and Manny said, "Come, let's play," and he could play. He had the ability to play. I wouldn't say that he was championships class, but he knew how to hit the ball and how to get it over the net and how to serve. And it shows you that what can be done. Now, I mean, the mastermind behind all this at that time was, without a doubt, was Jack Shapiro. The late Jack was, I mean, he was so special. Unfortunately, I don't think he was fully appreciated by the people that should have appreciated him. And yet people like Mendel Kaplan fully saw his value and saw that what he was doing was just unbelievable. I always say that Jack would have risen to the top in whatever he did, whether he got involved in an institution like the Selwyn Siegel, or he went into politics, into industry, into business. Whatever he did, he would have got reached the top. And he was the one that was always able to create ideas and create activities. He was the one that dreamt the idea of the kibbutz. He's the one that dreamt the idea of Camp David. And he was the one who really was there. He was almost available 24/7 for the residents. If there was ever a problem in the middle of the night, Jack would be there. He lived around the corner from the Selwyn Siegel, and he knew every resident. He knew all the life story, their likes, their dislikes, etc. And it was working with Jack that I learned so much. He's the one that really helped me, who helped to navigate me through a lot of my communal activities.
But Jack was like a father. He was a father figure.
More than a father figure. He was a father figure. He was a grandfather figure. He was just everything to the residents. He was a friend. Whatever they would want of him, he played that role. He had that ability to know what to do. And it wasn't only Jack, it was his whole family. It was the late June, it was his children Sandy, Darryl, Warren. They were all part and parcel of the life of the Selwyn Siegel. And it was wonderful for the residents because they were able to almost like integrate within the family. And it was, they all felt part and parcel of the Shapiro family. And also Jack's passing, I think, brought a new era to the Selwyn Siegel. And sometimes one's got to realise that everything can't be as it was. And obviously with change being run by an institution, I think the Hebrew Kaddish have done a wonderful job. Nevertheless, there's a difference between the personal touch and the institutional touch. But nevertheless, I think the residents, especially today, there were a few rocky years, I will admit, but I think even today, I think everything is very much on the up, and everyone is certainly, I think, sort of once again starting to reach new heights. The interesting thing with the activities at the Selwyn Siegel is that the residents themselves are able to adapt. They're able to adapt to good times. They're able to adapt to bad times, which I think is a story of life. That sometimes it might be a good thing to have a bit of a downturn so that one can appreciate the upturn with it. And certainly, I'll say without fear of contradiction, that the Selwyn Siegel is certainly on an up at the moment. Now, there have been a lot of characters there. I mentioned late Manny Grass. He was a late Brent Sloman. Brent was a person who also, he couldn't read, yet he could sing an Emsmirot. He could, he had all these also.
He knew it by heart.
He knew it by heart. He knew he could pick up anything in the davening. A lot of parts that he would pick up by heart, but he couldn't read one word. and he was the most incredible person. He was a person who knew how. He was a people's person. He would always reach out to people. He was never scared to introduce himself and to find out who they were and to see if he could make some connection with them. And he was really, at one point he was almost the face of the Soul Seagull, as later Rabbi Harris always used to say. Brent sang in more shul choirs than anybody else.
Wow.
Every time we'd go to a different shul, he would go and join the choir. In fact, I'll tell you one funny story. When we started going to Victory Park Shul, at one point Eric Klein was the chazan there. I mean, he's a world-class chazan. And first year we were there, Brent sang on Nimsi Rot. Second year we were there, and I arranged for him to sing it again. So just before Musaf, Eric Klein comes up to Brent, and I was standing with Brent. He says, "Now when you sing Nimsi Rot today, you mustn't scream." With that, Ari walks away, and talking to himself, he says, "Who am I to tell him not to scream?"
Wow. Oh wow, that's so funny.
You know,
Wow.
and these were, there were so many sort of, I mean, I could go through, there were umpteen other incidents like this, not only with Brent, but with other residents. And the interesting thing was that, as we branched out, we had Shabbatons, obviously the Glen Hazel Shul. We had with, the next one was, as I started with Santon, and then we went to Victory Park. And what was amazing that year with Victory Park, we came there was a big bar mitzvah that Shabbos, and the late Harry Bloom, who sort of organised the whole Shabbaton with us, he said, "Look, whatever we raise on the Bima today goes to the Soul Seagull." And they raised a lot of money that Shabbos, but it all went to the Soul Seagull. Talking about that reminds me of a story some years back. It's been about 10 years ago. We had this Shabbaton at the Santon Shul, and in fact Rabbi Beryl Wine was there with one of his groups that was visiting on the sort of safari in Africa. And anyhow, I leave for shul in the morning, and I see there's a person I assumed was part of his group, an American, and I was trying to get directions to the shul. And I said, "No, come with me." While walking there, I suddenly discovered he wasn't part of the group, that he was there separate, that he was, turned out that he was a professor of economics at Columbia University, and also was working at, spent some time at UCT in Cape Town as a visiting professor. So in fact, on that Shabbos he was staying over. He was on his way to Singapore, where he was an advisor to the Prime Minister of Singapore. So yeah, I said to him, "Look, please, you must stay for lunch, join us, you're going to find this an absolute experience," which something that I'll mention I should have mentioned earlier, but I'll mention as we get to it. So anyhow, he stays for lunch, and what we did, this goes back to the very first bracha that we had, is that we would give, the residents themselves would give a concert, they would sing songs, and and it was really, I mean, it's the most amazing concert that they give. You know, he turns around to him and says, "Look, I won't be at Mincha." He said, "But do me a favour, before you leave tonight, come to my room." He gives me the room number. I'll go to his room, and he says, "Look, I want to give a donation to the institution." He said, "Will $4,000 be enough?"
Wow.
So I didn't want to tell him. I mean, I was absolutely bowled over. And I mean, there's such good things that happened. I mean, this shows you the appreciation of what they did. Because going back to, I'll go tell you another very interesting story. I mean, these are known facts, so I can mention the name. There was a resident by the name of Selwyn Zeeman, and he was a resident at the Soul Seagull, and he was at a trade school. He learned a bit of a trade, and when he was finished at school, he got a job at a government workshop, protective workshop in Yellow Street in Johannesburg. And they used to send him every day. He used to take his sandwiches for lunch and all that. So go by bus, come back by bus. And then one day he turned around and said, I'd like to leave the Southern Seagull. So anyhow, the social workers evaluated the situation, and they found a family in Yeovil, and he went to stay with the family. There was a rabbi there who took a particular interest in him, and he arranged. He was very badly. Well, let me just go back before I jump the gun. Now, don't forget that the first brocha we had, when we were ready to leave, he stood up and he said, I want to say thank you. And he gave a speech thanking everybody, thanking the hosts. When we were walking out, he said to me, he said, my parents taught me one thing. You always thank everybody for whatever they give you. And anyhow,
it's a lovely lesson.
And a very, very important lesson. In fact, today that then became a standard feature of all our brochas and luncheons, in that at the end of it they would, not everybody, but there could sometimes be 10, 12 people who would get up and say thank you. So anyhow, we, coming back to him, there was this rabbi who took a personal interest in him, and because of his deformity and all that, arranged for him to have plastic surgery. And I think it was the third operation that he had. He actually went into heart failure in the operation, but he came around, so they didn't do any further surgery. Anyhow, they carried on in the community in Yeovil, and they looked after him, and they were he really was part and parcel of everything that was going on. Then this rabbi decided to arrange a shidduch for him. And they arranged a shidduch with a wealthy family in the UK. And he actually got married, went to the UK, and they had children. I don't know, I must be honest, the last number of years I've lost all contact with him. So I'm not sure what the latest and all that is. But the last that I heard, he came out when he was last out here, he was happy, sprightly, and he was really, he had sort of certainly risen up a few knots above what he was when he was here. And it just shows you that with love, care and attention, what can happen. So that Rabbi in Yeovil really, I think, deserves every accolade that can be given to him. Now, another story I should tell is soon after Rabbi Harris came to Johannesburg, the Southern Seagull one Friday night gave him a dinner, and in his honour at the hostel, and it had all the balabatim from the Southern Seagull were there together with the residents. And now we're all standing around, and balabatim turned around to Rabbi Harris and said, please start with singing Shalom Aleichem. Now he didn't start with Shalom Aleichem, he started with sorry, my mind is
still...
No. My mind has just gone blank for a second. Not Mary. But I can't believe it that after all these years that we sing this now every Shabbos and every brocha that we go to.
Is Mola David?
No. A nursery rhyme.
A nursery rhyme,
Baba Black Sheep.
Gee.
Yeah, he sang Baba Black Sheep. He took everybody by surprise, especially when he told them they all had to join in.
This is before Shalom Aleichem?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that has become a sort of standard with all our...
And you do this on a weekly basis?
On a weekly basis. Wherever we go, we sing Baba Black Sheep, and I tell the story, reminding where it all came from.
I think only Rabbi Harris could have done something like that.
And it was also, that sort of made it extra special. His whole family connection there, his mother-in-law, the late Mrs. Boyer, I mean, she used to have all her birthday parties, including milestone birthday parties, together with the residents at the Selwyn Seagull. And whatever they could do, however they could include the Selwyn Seagull, they would do that.
Yeah.
It was most amazing. And then, in addition to that, they had the ability to know how to win over the residents, how to make them feel at home. That we would go there, and we'd get there, lunchtime. After lunch, Rabbi Harris would go and lie down, and he invited everybody to find a couch, a chair, the floor, the grass, whatever they wanted to go and have a sleep. And everybody felt so much at home there.
He made it
so
just welcome to everyone.
Yeah. And can you imagine going to the chief rabbi's home and you go and you sleep on the floor in his lounge?
But he encouraged them.
Oh yes, completely. And it was absolutely, as I said, it was a real amazing relationship that we had. But coming back to the residents of the Selwyn Seagull and their activities, there was one resident I'll never forget. He used to play the horses.
Oh really? Wow.
And every time I would go there, he would give me the numbers that he wanted the bookie to, the bet he wanted the bookie to put on. It was the late Lionel Sutton, who I used to give it to, and he used to just put it on for him.
Did he win ever?
Yeah, he won. In fact, often he would go to the races as well.
He'd go. Wow, that's wonderful.
It was the late Ben Schuffman.
And you used to enjoy it?
I enjoyed it very much.
Wow.
It was really part and parcel of everything. And I started telling you just now about the different Shabbatons that we had. So we started with Santon and we went to Victory Park, and then Waverley came online. Obviously there was Glen Hazel Shul, and then we had Chabad of Alova, and then Pretoria Community came online.
Wonderful.
And we've been there a couple of times, and it's really special. In fact, the first time we went there, it was the most unbelievable story. We left there, we tried to leave early because of the traffic and everything. Little did we know that there'd been an accident on the highway in the morning with a police vehicle, and they'd blocked off one lane, so there was a traffic jam all the way back to Johannesburg, and I mean we really moved slowly. Because a police vehicle was involved, I mean it's so simple. Walked in with, even in those days they had it. I mean I'm only going back maybe 10 years ago. I mean all they had to do was video the scene and they had everything.
And then move the car.
They moved the car. But this now 5 hours or 6 hours later, they still had the car there. So anyhow, we lost at least an hour and a half on this, and now we're running into difficulty. Unbelievable. As we pass the accident, what happens? We hit a hailstorm, but a bad hailstorm. So traffic again becomes a complete snarl up. Anyhow, we had the bus going, and I was in my car as well, because we didn't have enough room in the bus for everybody. So I was sort of ahead, and I realised I had to try and get there ASAP. Anyhow, when I say ASAP, I was about there about 10-15 minutes before Shabbos. And there's no sign of the bus. Comes 5 minutes before Shabbos, no sign of the bus. So the rabbi says, we're trying to work out what to do. The hosts were there, to take residents home with their cases. The most amazing thing is 1 minute before Shabbos came in, the bus arrived. It was the most uncanny experience. Just to think about it.
1 minute before?
Just 1 minute before.
And the host had enough time to take them to the
No,
house?
they didn't have time to take them home. They had to
But at
walk
least
home.
they could.
They had to walk
They
home
didn't
with
have
their
to
bags.
Shabbos, yeah. Wow, that's incredible. 1 minute?
1 minute it was.
That's unbelievable.
The rabbi was telling us what we can do, what we can't do, and And we went, I must be honest, I didn't expect the bus to arrive for another hour. But these are the things that happen. I mean, we had it once also with Santon. Instead of taking the normal route, the driver decided to go through the CBD of Santon. We hit a Friday afternoon gridlock. And I mean, I didn't know how we were going to get there. And we eventually got grateful for cell phones. So they, what they did was when they saw where we were, they said, okay, you just wait where you are. Just the next turn off, just turn right. So we will meet you there. And they met us there, and within 5 minutes we were at the shul.
What year did you start going to Santon for Shabbat?
That was 1989.
So I was a youth director in Santon, and my brother was as well. But this is going back before 85.
Oh, before 85?
Just before 85. And Rabbi Shishot was the rabbi of
yeah.
the shul.
No, that was 1989.
I'm sure they made you very welcome in Santon.
And it was unbelievable. And I mean, we go there to this day and we saw the most wonderful relationship.
Nice David Shaw, who's a very close friend of mine.
No, he's a great person.
The Shaw, wonderful. He's got an enormous heart, him and his wife, and they do such chesed.
And it's an absolute, it's a great pleasure going to Santon. And as I said to them, after they opened the new shul when we went the first time, I said, now you can call your shul open.
Ah, it's true. That's wonderful.
And I mean, I can't turn around and say one Shabbaton is better than the next, because it doesn't matter how good the one is. When we get to the next one, that one is going on a higher level than the previous one. But what they do love is when we go to Chabad Aviloba, what happens there is that Kevin Newton, he arranges and collects clothes from the community. And he actually has like a clothing shop set up there, where people can come and select clothing that they want as they go home with. It's really special. The story I want to tell about clothing. I mean, this person also does it. He always has clothes. I mean, not as a big a selection as when we go to Chabad Aviloba. We go to him for the brocha. Now, what was interesting, I'm just trying to think, what's his name, Brad, I'll think of his surname in a minute. When we went there one year, about 4 years ago, and he had the stock Rebbe was there. Now, it was an interesting situation, because when we sing, we have the girls and the boys singing together. And the question was, do I let the ladies sing or don't I? And I thought to myself, well, let's see. We'll start off and see the reaction. And we started off, and no problem. Then the hostess joined in the singing. Immediately he put his fingers in his ears. Okay, so that was the first thing. So then then she stopped and we carried on without her singing. Then when we were leaving, the residents, they're very friendly and they wanted to shake hands. The ladies wanted to shake hands with him. And what he did is that he stretched out his jacket over his hand, and he shook hands with his hands covered. He shook hands with each and every one.
It's not to embarrass.
Yeah.
It's shows such sensitivity.
Yeah, I mean, that to me was absolutely unbelievable. And it shows you that where there's a will, there's a way. That if you want to find a solution to a problem, you'll find it.
So true.
I don't know if he would have done it with any woman who wanted to shake hands, but with someone single residents, he certainly did it.
It's wonderful.
That was a great lesson for me.
And I'm sure the residents must have appreciated it very much.
I don't think they understood the.
No, but it was very sensitive of him.
Yeah. And so as we've sort of gone on through the years, and so we've had all these different incidents. We've had, we start off again. This not this Shabbos, but Shabbos the week the 19th of January. We're going to Michelle Goodman for a luncheon at Shabbos, and from there it just rolls on and on and on. I mean, that's the 19th or 26th. We're going to have a case of a week after that. We're just waiting for them to come back from overseas. We've got a family, the Kohlbergs, that we'll most probably be going to. And then it'll run right until Pesach, every Shabbos.
I think my brother, you went into my brother's home for a bracha.
I'm trying to remember. I've never been to...
In College Muse.
No, we've been to College Muse many times. Every Shabbos Shabbat we go to Arnold Garber. We've been... Just trying to think of... I think we have been to Michael.
Yeah, you've been. And Lionel, can I ask, because you mentioned about the clothes and people coming to get outfits. It's so nice hearing on Chai FM. They have an advert for coming to the Southern Seagull gift shop, where the general public are encouraged to come and to buy wonderful toys and wonderful items.
Look, they've got, the Southern Seagull gift shop must be the leading gift shop for babies and young children today. I mean, it's a toy shop par excellence. Their range is unbelievable, and it's all run by volunteers.
And the beauty is that people give to the tzedakah. It goes straight to the Southern Seagull. It's such a win-win situation.
But it's more than that. You see the quality that they've got.
It's the best quality. It's the highest. And they make the arrangements, such beautiful arrangements as well.
It's really top class.
And what's also very nice with the idea of having the gift shop is the general public, it gives them exposure to going to visit the Southern Seagull. So it's not a place tucked away, it's in the open, and they encourage people to come. And I think it's so important.
The gift shop has proved to be one of the great successes of any charitable group, within the Jewish community. I mean, their success is just phenomenal.
And Lionel, could you tell our viewers about Kibbutz Labner and Camp David?
Yes, unfortunately, they've both been, neither of them are being used anymore.
It's never been used?
Neither. But the late Jack Shapiro, these were his dreams. And with Kibbutz Labner is slightly different because there were a lot of other factors. The community that was out there on the kibbutz, they were becoming a smaller and smaller community, with either people passing on or people sort of becoming more frail and unable to do it. But the late Jack Shapiro, he got the idea of setting up this kibbutz. It's out at Olifantsfontein. It's about a 15-20 minute drive from the Southern Seagull out on the way to Pretoria. And the late Maury and Bella Labner, they were the ones that initially sponsored the kibbutz. They put up the initial funding for it. And they had a beautiful home, a double-story house. And then what they started doing, more than farming and anything, was that they started a home industries business where they were making teglach and...
I think they're making honey as well.
Yes, the whole wide range of products which became bestsellers within the community. Those products are still marketed today, but they've now outsourced the manufacturing of it. But what was interesting was the great life that they were able to lead there. Gave them a degree of independence, gave them a degree of being able to sort of lead their own. They were able to lead their own lives, and it was country living, which is completely different. It doesn't matter where you live in a city. You can live in the nicest home, you can live on an estate, but in a city is a city. And whereas out there you knew you were in the country, you knew when you came back home that it was that your neighbour was could be at least 200-300 meters away from you at least.
Yeah.
Not that there was somebody sort of on top of you. And they really had a great time. They had a swimming pool there. They used to go for walks. They had to do gym every morning, and they had a purpose. Working in that home industries building, they knew that they had to be clean. They had to wear proper white coats. They had to have their hair covered. And I taught them a lot. Each one had different functions. Some would be involved in packing, some would be involved in weighing the products, some would be involved in the actual manufacturing of it, or the baking. Then you had others that were involved in the laundry, looking after everybody's cleaning the clothes, and you also had one or two that were involved directly in gardening there, and they even had hot houses, and it really was in the end I think they did the right thing in closing the kibbutz. I don't think they could have maybe lasted another year or two, but that's immaterial. The fact of the matter is that for a lot of reasons, amongst other was security. You've got a Jewish organisation that's out in the sticks.
You're exposed.
You're completely exposed, and it becomes an absolute sitting target if anybody wants to hit the Jewish community. So for that reason alone,
it's a sad reality. It's a sad reality living in.
But the years that they were there, they had the benefit, they enjoyed it, and today they're still a cohesive group. They still live together, still stay in a separate section at the Sow and Seagull, and they have a certain degree of more independence than what the other residents might have, but they're really a wonderful unified group.
And those home products are still sold, and they're still very popular.
Oh yes, no, very much so. And then there was Camp David. Now, to me, that is a great pity, because that should have been not just for the Sow and Seagull, but
for the general
public, and especially for the people saying like our parents' home, Sandringham Gardens, would have given them a chance, even if they went out for 3-4 days maximum. Because the moment you go to Johannesburg, even if you're there for just 2 hours, it's that mountain air that just changes everything, that extra oxygen. You come back completely invigorated, and you're ready to carry on. You've really had a great time. You feel good, and you are good. But for their own reasons, I don't want to go into it, they decided to close it down.
Did they sell it, or it's
I'm not sure.
Because it was a great success. I remember it was a trim, and
well, the late Mendel Kaplan, I mean, he really saw to it that became a reality.
Well, maybe it will be
you know what, it's there. It doesn't
revived, and it was a wonderful idea. It really was. And I think your idea that including other organizations.
You know, if you think about it carefully, I don't know if you've ever seen the Harbonim campsite.
I have been. I've actually spent a Shabbos there.
Right.
I was invited to give a talk at Harbonim in '94, many years ago, in Hermanus. It's in the Cape. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning.
I was saying to Rabbi Harris at the time, I said, you know, why is it used for 3 weeks a year? I said, you let the people in Cape Town go there, stay there, spend time there.
It's so true. It's such a wonderful campsite. It's very near to Cape Town.
And Rabbi Harris, he actually moved to Hermanus. That's where he moved to.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the time that he moved, he was already terminally ill.
And I think, is Anne still staying? His wife?
No, she's now moved to Cape Town.
She's moved to Cape Town. But you're right. Why isn't it used by the?
I mean, it should be. So you can't. You've got an asset like that. I wouldn't say it should be used. It must be used.
The B'nai Akiva campsite near Muscle Bay in Hartenbos. So that is a little bit further. It's near George, but that could also possibly be used.
But it's, I mean, the one in Hermanus is, I mean, that is extra special.
It's right on the beach. It's absolutely stunning. And
it's one hour from
I think you have a wonderful, that's a very, very good suggestion. I'm sure, I don't know why nobody's taken you up on your suggestion.
Now, Rabbi Harris was determined that he was going to do it, but unfortunately, fate played a different card there, and he wasn't physically able to do it.
It has kosher facilities, and it is just the view, the position.
The position is just unbelievable.
You couldn't wish for better, and it's very close to Cape Town. And you do have many organizations in Cape Town that could really benefit tremendously.
As I was saying, so these years with the Sow and Seagull have been sort of completely extra special. As I say, every Shabbos is an experience on its own. Every time I'm with him, if it's not on Shabbos, if it's if I should bump them during the week or something like that, again, it's great. It's like being with your own family. And how can I put it? It's a type of relationship, I suppose, best described as being made in heaven, because you can't just create this out of nothing. It's something that has evolved and developed into this beautiful relationship.
Wow, I don't know if you're aware, but while you were talking, it was like the heavens opened, and it is like Mina Shamayim that maybe Jack Shapiro was listening to your talk and agreeing with every word.
And Jack was, as I say.
But I think, sometimes when somebody who's so great passes away and people say it's impossible to fill those shoes, I think Jack entrusted you, and he brought you into Sow and Seagull, and I think you have filled those shoes more than adequately, and I think Jack and everybody's so proud of you.
No, look, I'll say one thing, that from the start of the program, when Jack used to come, initially he used to come almost every Shabbos, and then after a few years he started. After a few years he stopped coming, and
I think it was for health reasons.
Yeah, look, eventually it became health reasons. Unfortunately, his health deteriorated badly at one point.
I remember Jack. Everybody remembers Jack.
Jack, unfortunately, he had a heart trouble, he had a stroke, he had whatever he could have, he had. But every time he came back fighting, even fitter than what he had been.
He was always smiling. He had a wonderful, he had just such a wonderful way about him.
Now that's... Yeah, just sorry about this, and just... Jack was, he was extra special, and what I found with Jack was that he was able to, at all times, he was always thinking, he was always scheming, he was always planning, he was always trying to be 3-4 steps ahead of everything, and there's no doubt about it that, in fact, I remember Jack one year went to a World Congress on mental retardation, where he delivered a paper, and it was very well accepted. And at that time, his ideas were, even overseas, a lot of them were revolutionary. And he certainly made his impact not only here, but internationally. And I think that, there's always, unfortunately, as people change, positions change, so you get new people sort of coming into it, but eventually you get new ideas, you get a new direction, and you suddenly find, as long as people are open-minded, that you carry on. And as I say, at the moment, personally I've found that the Sow and Seagull is definitely on and up in terms of the way it's being run and being looked after, and that the residents are being looked after. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Lionel, you mentioned to me in our previous interviews that when you look through your your illustrious career, you really have had a tremendous, what you've only achieved in your career, really. I think the highlight, and I think the most, for you, the most special is actually the Solomon Seagull.
No, without a doubt, the Salmon Seagull to me has always been what it's all about. I mean, I've enjoyed all my other activities and they've been stimulating and exciting and everything else that goes with it. But I found that my relationship with the Salmon Seagull and my involvement with them has certainly sort of brought me onto a much higher plane than I could ever have imagined. You know, it's one of these things that's just evolved, and I started there. I could never have imagined that 40 years later I would still be there and still being more enthusiastic than what I was when I started.
Very passionate. Very.
It's the most unbelievable thing. And I doubt, you know, whether there's any other institution in Johannesburg that would have enabled me to sort of feel this way and to have been able to carry on for so long without becoming demotivated and becoming sort of now ready to sort of jump ship. Whereas here I just want the ship to carry on sailing. Occasionally you do hit rough winds and stormy weather and stormy sea, but that happens anywhere and everywhere. It doesn't matter what you get involved in. And I must say I'm really grateful that the community have accepted the Salmon Seagull the way they have. Because to me, that if anything has given me satisfaction, that is what has done so. There's no doubt about it. You know, just to think that, as I said earlier on, in the 1950s, your involvement was giving money. You don't give yourself. You don't open your shoe to the residents of the Salmon Seagull. Don't do anything like that. And yet, I've been so grateful that I could have been part of this mood swing and sort of opinions changing that has taken place within the community. And certainly, you know, I should be blessed to have quite a few more years where I can...
Maybe stream until... Plus, and the Chief Rabbi Harris, you say, at maybe stream plus VAT.
Yep.
Plus VAT. So let's hope the VAT actually gets increased, but only when you reach maybe stream.
But you know, however long it is, certainly, however long I feel that because one thing I'm a great believer in is a legacy. And I had a legacy. Unfortunately, or fortunately I should say, my legacy is going on Aliyah. That's Robbie Singer. So I've got to get back to the drawing board and while he's still here, find a new legacy to make sure that things carry on and carry on as they should and must.
Robbie will be a big asset in Israel, a tremendous asset.
You know, he's been wonderful, he's been really tremendous. I can't tell you, especially after I had my stroke, I mean the way he helped me because the moment I was ready, when I got back from rehab, I was in the wheelchair and he used to push me every Shabbos to the brochas. I mean now I can walk using my walker, but I wasn't going to let this keep me down.
So Lionel, I just want to mention that just as much the Solomon Seagull has given you, Solomon Seagull, what you've given to the Solomon Seagull, there are no words. There really are no words to describe the appreciation for the whole, not only for the Solomon Seagull, but for the whole community. And what you've done, it's not only the Solomon Seagull, your connection with Yeshiva College. I think the amalgamation of both the Solomon Seagull and Yeshiva College. Just to give you a little example, this Shabbat, and all the Shabbats that I've come and I spend time at the Brocha or in Shul, you can't really differentiate who's in the Solomon Seagull, who isn't. Everybody sits together, they mingle together. There's not separate seating, there's not separate areas. They're made to feel so at home, and it's like they're part of the shul, just as everybody else is. And it's I think unique. It is unique. And it's through you, people like you, and especially you, that you've managed to combine both your passions for Yeshiva College, for Glen Hazel Shul, synagogue, and for the Southern Seagull, and you've merged them together, and we see the results, and it is so beautiful, and it is so magnificent to see. And I think there's no other shore, no other community that has this combination that you and the late Jack Shapiro and all those who have helped have achieved. It must give you a tremendous satisfaction to see this, because it is, anybody who comes to this community and who sees it, there is no place like this. It really is. It's exceptionally special.
That's what you say, sir. I mean, it's very true. And as I say, I played a small role in
a major role. You're very modest, but a major role, but a very important role. And I think you succeeded beyond anyone's expectations.
And as I say, when I started off, I never imagined that I would have spent so many hours, with the residents. And as I say, every time we walk to a different home, it's talk to different residents as we go along, and you get the stories of what happened during the week. So what I didn't mention, I should just add to what I haven't mentioned yet, is that a few years ago they asked me, the person who was running the Southern Seagull, if I would include people from Sandringham Lodge and Sandringham Square in the program. So, I always believe if you don't try it, you don't know. I was a little bit skeptical, but decided to do it. And it's the most amazing thing that it's turned out a great success. Because here we've got the people at the Lodge and Square, they are more people who've got psychological problems.
Or have fallen on hard times. Some have really fallen on hard times, or...
But they've all got some particular sort of problem. It could be depression, they could have been on drugs, there's a lot of possibilities. And yet it's worked out unbelievably well. And I must say that them now having sort of joined us, it's sort of attitude. And what I've just learned only recently, it only takes you all these years to pick it up, is the importance of not only on Shabbos, but a program like this, to start extending it beyond Shabbos. Because what happens, I've arranged a few lunches on a Sunday recently, and I saw what it meant to the residents, because suddenly they could get out of their own little environment on a Sunday, not just a Shabbos. And because things in any institution comes a public holiday or a Sunday, things are much quieter and there's very little going on. And this has had a tremendous bearing on me, that this year I plan to have at least between 6 and 8 Sundays where I'm going to take them out to different homes for a luncheon.
That's really wonderful. And I'd like to just mention, in Israel, if you go to any concert or any major hall, they have a special section for people in wheelchairs or disabilities, and they encourage them to be part of the community and part of the audience. And it's just such a wonderful, and they accept it totally, and it's just taken as for granted that we're all together, and there's no discrimination, there's no they want to include, and they want to give everybody opportunity to enjoy a performance or a play or any performance.
You see, unfortunately in Israel, their big problem is disability, as opposed to the problem that we're dealing with at the Southern Seagull.
Yeah.
And I say unfortunately in Israel because it is very unfortunate. And yet I must say that's one country where they really help and assist people with disabilities. I mean, they are probably world leaders.
I think they are the world leaders. They really are.
And so
there's a member of Knesset who has I met her. She has a major disability, and she became a member of Knesset, which I think is pretty unique.
No, it certainly is. But it shows you what can happen and what.
But the stories that you told us today, and it's remarkable. Somebody got married, moved to England, doing a name's Mirot. It's heartwarming. It's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity of being able to give the story, and I look forward to carrying on with the next visit with my other activities.
I look forward to it with great eagerness. And Lionel, just as you mentioned at Mayvest Stream, please God, you must be in good health, and it's good to see you walking and that you've recovered. And I think your connection with the Selwyn Seagull, with Yeshiva College, gives you strength to continue, because we need you desperately, and the community needs you desperately. And we are so grateful that you are part of the community and so active in the community. And it's really been such a wonderful experience hearing. It's been such an honor to hear you, and you are somebody that I think we can all strive to emulate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're our public relations officer. Thank you very
Lionel,
much.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
In good health, Mazel and Bracha.
Thank you.
It's a great honor and a privilege to be with you, Lionel, and I thank you so much for your valuable time you've given and for agreeing to do these interviews. And it's been such a pleasure to be with you.
Yes, no, thank you very much. When you first asked me to do it, I didn't know what I was letting myself in for, but really I've really enjoyed it, and I see the absolute advantage, of having done this. And really, to you, I just say thank you very much.
Well, I've enjoyed it tremendously, and I really thank you.
No, that's my pleasure. Thank you very, very much.